They didn't show you this on TV. WWE cameras cut. The broadcast ended. The pyro faded. The arena lights went down. And that is exactly when the most important moment of the entire night happened, backstage, out of sight, away from the millions watching at home. Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso, and Seth Rollins, 4 men who have spent years trying to destroy each other, were in the same room, talking. And WWE didn't want you to see it. Ask yourself why. Because what went down in that backstage summit after Raw went off the air on the 18th of March 2026 could change the entire direction of WWE programming going forward. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't a casual run-in. This was deliberate. This was calculated. And if you think this doesn't affect WrestleMania season, you are not paying attention. Let's break it all down. Every detail, every layer, every implication. And trust me, by the time we're done here, you're going to have an opinion so strong, you will be dropping it in the comments. Raw on the 18th of March 2026 was already one of the most chaotic nights in recent memory. The energy in that arena was unhinged from the opening segment. You had faction tension simmering all night long. The OG Bloodline had been doing what they do, asserting dominance, playing political chess, making everyone in that locker room feel the pressure of their presence. Roman Reigns walked into that building like a man who already knew how the night was going to end. That slow, deliberate walk, that quiet intensity. The head of the table doesn't panic. He plans. Meanwhile, Seth Rollins had a completely different kind of night. Seth came out swinging, verbally, physically, emotionally. Seth has always been the kind of performer who leaves absolutely everything in that ring, and on this particular Monday, he was operating at a different level. There was an edge to Seth that felt personal. It wasn't just about championships or WrestleMania spots. Something deeper was fueling him. And when Raw ended, that energy didn't just disappear. The Usos, Jimmy and G, spent the night navigating the impossible tension of being caught between loyalty and ambition. These 2 men have sacrificed more for the Bloodline than almost anyone else in WWE history, and yet the complexity of their current situation keeps evolving. Jimmy riding with the OG Bloodline while G has carved out his own identity. It creates a fracture point that WWE Creative has been pulling on like a loose thread. And on this night, that thread was about to snap. Trivia question, drop your answer in the comments. How many times have the Usos held the WWE Tag Team Championships combined across both Raw and SmackDown? Drop your answer below. Let's see who really knows their Bloodline history. The Backstage Summit, what actually happened now? Here's where it gets real. After the cameras stopped rolling and the production crew started breaking down the set, word spread through the backstage area fast. Roman Reigns had not left the building. That alone was unusual. Roman typically exits quickly and deliberately, but not this night. This night, he stayed, and the word circulating was that a meeting had been requested. Not by Roman, not by the Usos, by Seth Rollins. Let that sink in for a second. Seth freaking Rollins walked into Roman Reigns' space voluntarily and called a summit. The man who spent years fighting against bloodline manipulation, the man who has been arguably the most defiant personality in WWE for the past 3 years, chose to sit across from the head of the table and have a conversation. Why? Because Seth Rollins is not stupid. Whatever is coming at WrestleMania, Seth knows the landscape. He sees the threat. He understands that sometimes, the most dangerous alliance is the one you build with your enemy before your real enemy can use them against you. Here's what we know about what went down in that room. The tone was reportedly tense but controlled. Roman did most of the listening, which is exactly how Roman operates. He lets you talk yourself into a corner before he responds. Jimmy Uso was present and visibly uncomfortable. G Uso's attendance was the wild card nobody saw coming, and his presence at that table said more than any promo ever could. When G Uso walks into a room with Roman Reigns voluntarily, something monumental is shifting. Sources indicate that the conversation centered around one specific topic, and it wasn't a truce. It wasn't a celebration. It was a warning. Seth came with information. Information about a common threat that neither the OG Bloodline nor Seth Rollins can afford to ignore heading into WrestleMania season. And Roman, being the chess player that he is, didn't dismiss it. He listened. He calculated. And by the time that meeting ended, the power dynamics of Raw's entire roster had quietly, invisibly shifted. The fact that this summit happened at all is the story. Roman Reigns does not grant audiences. Roman Reigns does not share tables with people who haven't earned his respect. So either Seth Rollins just earned a level of respect we haven't seen acknowledged before, or Roman is setting Seth up for the longest con in WWE history. And that is the question you need to be asking yourself right now. Let's talk about Jimmy and G specifically, because this is where the summit gets even more dangerous. Jimmy Uso is all in on the OG Bloodline. His loyalty to Roman has been reaffirmed time and time again. But Jimmy is not blind. Jimmy has been in this business long enough to know when the ground is shifting beneath his feet. His presence at this backstage meeting wasn't passive. Reports suggest Jimmy was vocal, not explosive, but measured and direct. He had concerns about whatever Seth was bringing to the table, and he made those concerns known. G Uso showing up is the detail that will keep WWE analysts up at night. G has been on a path of self-determination ever since he broke free from Bloodline control. He's been building his own legacy, his own reputation, his own identity entirely separate from Roman's shadow. And yet, when this summit was called, G was there. Why? What brought him back into that orbit, even temporarily? There are only two explanations. Either G was brought in by Seth as a sign of good faith, a way to show Roman that this meeting had legitimacy and wasn't a trap. Or G came on his own because whatever common threat Seth referenced is something G already knows about. Something G has been tracking on his own. And if that's the case, the summit wasn't just between Seth and Roman. It was the beginning of something far larger, far more powerful, and far more dangerous for everyone else on that roster. What year did Seth Rollins first turn on the Shield, and who did he align with immediately after? First person to get it right gets pinned in the comments. What this means for WrestleMania: here's where we connect all the dots, and here's where I need you to focus because this is the part that will either age like fine wine or blow up in all our faces. WrestleMania season is here. Every move, every meeting, every promo and every backstage conversation is a chess piece. WWE Creative doesn't let things like this happen accidentally. A backstage summit between Roman Reigns, The Usos, and Seth Rollins is either the setup for a blockbuster alliance or the setup for the most elaborate betrayal WWE has put together in years. If this is an alliance, even a temporary one, the rest of the roster should be terrified. A version of Roman Reigns with Seth Rollins operating in the same direction is a nightmare scenario for any champion, any challenger, any faction on either show. The combined political capital, in-ring ability, and sheer force of personality between those three entities is unmatched on the current roster. But here's what I believe, and you're going to want to fight me on this in the comments, which is exactly why I'm saying it. I think Roman is going to let Seth believe this alliance is real. I think Roman is going to allow Seth to feel like they are on the same page, let him act on that belief, let him burn bridges and make enemies based on it, and then, at the exact moment Seth is most exposed, Roman is going to pull the rug. Because that is what Roman Reigns does. That is the head of the table's greatest weapon. He doesn't defeat you with his hands first, he defeats you with your own trust. The Usos will be watching, G especially, because G has seen this movie before. He lived this movie, and if Seth Rollins doesn't take that into account, he's walking into WrestleMania season with a target on his back and a smile on his face. Final thoughts: what happened after Raw on the 18th of March 2026 is bigger than a backstage meeting. It's the beginning of a story that WWE is going to pay off in a massive way, and whether you're a Roman loyalist, a Seth Rollins stan, a Day One Uso supporter, or just a fan who loves when the product hits differently, this is the kind of storytelling that reminds you why you never stop watching. Drop your takes in the comments right now. Do you trust this summit? Is Seth being played? Is Roman actually open to a temporary alliance? And most importantly, where does G Uso's loyalty actually land when WrestleMania night arrives? Share this video with every WWE fan you know, because the conversation happening in these comments is going to be elite.